I think very early on, I do not know whether it was the stories I grew up with, or I would say it was probably a mix of the stories I grew up with as well as my life experiences. Looking at things around me, my family, my friends, my classmates, and bringing all those little encounters, experience, and I kind of dropped it into maybe a little piggy bank of like either ideas or a little ditty bag that I could grab to go into and create characters from. So I, 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 I grew up with that wealth of, I guess, experiences and stories that when it came time for me to present my own story or tell my own story, I found that I was telling a composite of these stories. And more often than not, I just felt like while there are very just plain old good old fashioned entertaining stories out there that you go to maybe distract yourself, and then there are also stories that are very, like, let's say, introspective and heavy and things like that, and that were also out there trying to send a message across. I consumed both as a filmmaker, as a student, coming out of, but I felt like couldn't find a middle ground. Could I find that middle ground whereby I could entertain someone, but yet also leave them with a takeaway from the end of it? And that, I think, subconsciously kind of melded into me, and like with Happy Place, with our first series, Purnama, and Anthology, to all the other series that we have done, like Avenue 13, Avenue 14, Devouring, they all started to become an allegory, I think, of my experiences on the whole. And when I say my experiences, it may not have been experiences that I went through personally, but what I took away from in my journey in life. And that's where I found, like, I wanted to tell these stories that were not so sugar-coated, not your classic sense of the hero or heroine, not that linear story. And I started to create those kind of worlds, create those kind of narratives, and put them out there, because I started to feel like when I did my first one, it felt like, okay, I was doing something for myself as a filmmaker. But then I saw the responses. I saw a production manager in our office when she watched that film. She was a freelancer. When she came in and she watched it, she started to cry. She stepped away, she cried, and then she came out and said it reminded about her losing her mom to cancer, when she watched Happy Place. And I was like, oh, okay. And the next show that we did, like Super Force, which is a bunch of misfit kids who are like oddballs in school, and they can't find their place, but they're empowered by superpowers, and how they rise and defeat the bad guy and get empowered and find themselves, find that identity. I got a note from one of the actors saying that when he went to a kid's birthday party, and the kid recognized him from the show and started talking about the show in this animated form. And that email till today is on our wall in the office. I printed it out, I laminated it, because for me it was that, ratings aside, success of the show aside, it's that one person, if I could help that one, or I could empower, I could touch one person out there with my story, I think that was good enough. Cut to today, whereby I'm a dad, I feel like I feel that responsibility even bigger right now. I want to put out stories there that someday that my daughter might watch and she could draw from. That if she's an outcast, an outsider, no, don't worry. That has this story that's all pegged out that shows you could rise from that. If she looks at my non-fictional work, our documentaries, Mono and Protagonist often have done lots of documentaries in the mental wellness and mental health space. It comes from both an education on our parts as storytellers, as well as a contribution, we feel, to a broader societal thing. These are stories from very brave people that we get to capture and put out there. So if there's one person who's out there who feels they can identify with the characters or could benefit from that story, mission accomplished. Yeah, I think very much from all the stories that we put out there, that we have shared, it's become like this this beacon for me, in the company, and I charge my creative team in that way. We do stories, yes, for the masses and all that, but we should do it also for that one person, you know, out there who's going to watch it and take something away from it. You know, often I tell them, like myself and my partner, to, you know, doing what we do, there's a lot of stress. You know, you can see that in the team. We have to create things, you have to put things out, you have to service clients, you have to do all sorts of stuff, and it can get overwhelming sometimes on the work of production, you know, of filmmaking and all that. It's a task by itself. But where we try to dial it down and, you know, try to at least like make our team feel at ease, is we often say like, we are not doing rocket science, or we're not like, you know, finding the cure for cancer, you know, doing what we do, but we may be actually inspiring. You know, what I add on is we may be inspiring that kid or someone who might be that person who finds the cure for cancer via our stories, via, you know, what we put out there. So most of our stories, no matter whatever shape and form they take, you know, they may be packaged in different genres. You know, at the heart of it, it's actually about very strong, resilient characters. You know, it's about characters who have been through a lot and how they overcome it. And that very much, I feel, is an allegory in itself to even the mental health space of things. And what is very eerily ironic, or you know, it's also how much production and even the mental health space, you know, relate to each other, you know, like, and can learn from each other. I feel like in doing projects whereby we have featured individuals with mental health issues and kind of shared their stories and put them out there online for the public and all that. We often handled it with a lot of delicacy, but also, you know, like there's a sort of honesty in it. Like, you know, we wanted to also portray it right, not to sugarcoat it, like it is what it is, and we put these stories out as the best as we could. But I often feel like these stories that we do, we also learn a lot from it, you know, and vice versa, you know, like we are in a field whereby if you sometimes ever feel down, you know, we're in the business of creating stuff. And I feel like that's one of the best places to be, to play around, to sometimes get yourself out of a funk. Like, you know, dive into something that you are creating, do something positive out of it, you know, and just get that out, you know, like create, and then, you know, like discover new things, you know, like get empowered, you know, and then like kind of conquer, you know, whether it's a fear, whether it's something that you want to put out, just put it out.